Good morning, everyone. This is Holly Magnuson, and you are at Ask the Security Guy, episode number 62, and the last season of season 6, last episode of season 6. I'll get that right. And this month, I am joined with Sean Corman. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. A little bit of a surprise last month, so.
Yeah, that was, but it worked out. It was a great episode, and excitingly enough, to kick off season 7 in December, Leslie will be back with us if all goes according to plan, as well as Valerie Floyd Davis.
Yeah.
If everything goes according to plan, we have to go with the flow sometimes.
Well, that's absolutely true. But yeah, we're very excited to have both of those folks on the show, and they've both been with us before.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to a really exciting conversation. It's probably going to be a bit longer than our normal shows.
Right.
But there's a lot to go over, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, and when we will be meeting in a couple of weeks to kind of plan it all out. And so, yeah, I'm excited. But today we're going to talk about a subject that is kind of near and dear to our hearts when it comes November. And as I was thinking about it, this year, probably more than ever, we are going to be doing our shopping online because of COVID and just not wanting to go out into stores and all of that. Online shopping, I have a feeling, is going to be even bigger than previous years. So
absolutely, and well, I mean, the social distancing and all the other goodness that goes with where we are. There are extra considerations in play, especially for a lot of folks with any kind of compromised immune system or anything that puts them at a higher risk factor.
Yep.
So the online shopping all of a sudden becomes far more attractive.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of it for years because that deal is not good enough for me to go out and deal with the crazy. So.
I'm very invested as well. I hate shopping.
Yeah.
If I can just sit there and work with Amazon or somebody else and have it show up at the house without having to deal with a crowd, I'm a happy camper.
Same here. I thoroughly and completely enjoy that. So as we think about this I'm so sick of the term new normal, but as we look at this probably higher rate of online shopping, I want to first do the commercial. If you have not subscribed to the Ask the Security Guy channel, please do so. There is, and I have no idea where it is in relationship to Sean and I, but below our video, there is a subscribe button. And if you subscribe, anytime we go live, you will get a message. So do that. Like us if you like us. There's a little thumbs up. As always, there is the chat. So if you have questions as we're talking, please drop those into the chat. You will notice that at the top, it may say top chat. You want to switch that to live chat. That way you see everything as it happens. And feel free to come up with questions to stump Sean Corman, because we love that. So now, as I've done my commercial, let's get back to what should we be thinking about? What's the first thing we should think about with this idea of doing a lot of online shopping?
So oddly enough, I mean, we talk about this. We've been talking about this for years, and the basic principles don't change a whole lot. Mm-hmm. When you're shopping online, one, shop at a reputable store or organization. If you're getting emails and advertisements and they look kind of fishy, chances are they are. So be thoughtful about that. Mm-hmm. Amazon, some Google market, Google has some good deals where they work with people with reputable stores like Best Buy or Newegg or Macy's. Macy's still in business?
I have no. That's not a place I shop. So if you're watching and if you know, please tell us if Macy's is still available. That's just too highbrow for me.
Track of them because I use them so often.
Yes.
But anyway, stick with your name brand stores. Now, there's an interesting twist that actually started a couple years ago, but it's really taking predominance this year, especially because of how much of the world has moved into an online paradigm. And that's data collection. So as you're filling out your cart or your shipping info or what your order information, look very carefully at what data is being asked of you.
Mhm.
So what data is actually required to process payment? What data is actually required to have the product show up at your house or wherever you're shipping it? Um, because a lot of times what you're going to find is these retailers and other stores will start asking other data about you. Did you like this product? Hey, did you consider this? Tell us about your age. What about your gender or ethnicity? These are all things that are growing in popularity that they ask for. And you'll notice most of them have a asterisk or some kind of indicator next to fields indicating what fields they actually need
Mhm.
versus what they're asking for. And those are important distinctions. So this is, kind of that borderline between privacy and security. Um, the privacy aspect of this says, the less information I give you, the better. The security side of it says, the less information I give you, the better.
Yes.
So, kind of hand in hand there. Um, so some other general best practices. Make sure your Wi-Fi is in good shape and that you aren't using the Wi-Fi password that your provider gave you or something inherently easy to figure out. If your password is "I love my dog," you have problems, um, or passwords of a similar nature. Wi-Fi passwords. I mean, just for full disclosure, uh, for most home routers, they're using a Wi-Fi protocol or a way of communicating between machines called WPA2. It's a security protocol.
Mhm.
And that has there's holes in it as well as there were holes in the predecessors, and there will be holes found in the next one. So a good protection though is to make sure that you have a good, long, strong, obnoxious Wi-Fi password.
Mhm.
um, it doesn't have to be user friendly. It just has to be something that doesn't make a lot of sense. You're not going to type it in very often, so make it long and strong and go from there.
Yeah, long and strong is a theme that you're going to hear Sean and I both use with when it comes to passwords.
Passwords, passphrases, yeah, and passphrases are actually a good option for Wi-Fi
Mhm.
passwords too, because the amount of time and effort it requires to reverse engineer those is significant. And you want to be, you don't want to be the most secure person on the block. You just want to be better than your neighbor.
Makes me think of a story about a bear, but we're going to keep it on focus and on target. Um,
That's exactly true. So that's about Wi-Fi. Make sure you're making good practices with your home Wi-Fi. Don't shop at Starbucks. Uh,
Thankfully, they're not open, so
yeah, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of these are kind of no-brainers in this era, but avoid shared Wi-Fi scenarios. Stick with your home or someplace you trust.
yeah, don't be sneaking on your neighbor's Wi-Fi and using theirs to shop.
Yeah, that. Not that I've ever done that, but anyway. Moving on.
Moving on, how should I pay for my purchases?
So, that's a great question. There's a lot of us that use debit cards or bank cards for that are tied to our checking or savings or whatever, and that I do not recommend. So basically, the rule of thumb is if you're shopping online, use a low limit credit card.
Mhm.
If it gets compromised, the risk factor to you is low. Credit card companies are pretty much pros at dealing with fraud, and if you contact them and say that this was a fraudulent charge, chances are they'll roll it back pretty quickly for you after they do an investigation. Whereas waiting that time period from a loss from your checking account or your savings account, especially in these times where a lot of
Yeah.
people may be living paycheck to paycheck, that can hurt, and it's not something that a lot of people can really bear if it happens.
Mhm.
So just take that extra step. If you've got a $500 credit card, use it. $1,000 credit card, whatever, but low limit. Someone that you've worked with, you know what their response is to submitting a fraudulent charge,
Mhm.
and their process for investigating and then refunding is usually pretty good. Um, but do your homework. Look at you know get to know what your credit card company's processes and policies are. Call them, ask. If you don't feel like reading through the pages and pages and pages of really tiny print, um, the customer service representative will usually be fairly well versed enough to answer you.
And if they're not, you might change credit card companies.
That's
Just saying.
As always, think before you click.
Yeah.
Advertisements are going to come up on Facebook. They're going to come up in Google. They're going to come up in pretty much anything you can imagine. There is a prevalence among ads to do basically malicious ads, which if you don't have current software on your computer or your antivirus is out of date or both, and yes, this applies to Mac users as well, you're far, no more secure than anybody else, contrary to what Apple will tell you. Make sure that you're up to date. Now, if you haven't rebooted your computer in a year, reboot the thing. It has updates that it needs to apply, I guarantee you. I was recently informed that that there were some users who hadn't rebooted some of their devices in over a year. That's problematic. I realize it's a convenience issue, but with the speed at which our industry is moving, security updates and regular updates are coming out every month, if not sooner. So when you don't reboot your machine, you increase the level of risk associated with using the machine to yourself, and if it's an APU machine, to APU. So just bear that in mind. That's just good housekeeping. And then, well, I guess the last thing is, keep a close eye on your statements.
Yeah.
Your credit card statements. I would, and also keep a close eye on any card that you have used online, if it's a bank card or a credit card or both, especially in this season. So between now and really February, I would say check your statements weekly. Make sure that you recognize all the charges that are being listed there. Yep. Bank account information and credit card information, data breaches are quite common now. They've been growing in popularity, but with this shift this year of so many people moving to an online paradigm who have never done it before, there is a huge amount of information available on the dark web. There's always been a huge amount of information there. It's just growing. So keep a close eye on your bank card statements. I had a case just actually this week where one of my email accounts was signed up with payment card information to a service that I've never heard of. That's my stuff, which is locked down 6 ways from Sunday. And what was more interesting, it was on a credit card I've had for less than a week.
Interesting. And rather suspicious.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty special. So needless to say, I've been having a conversation with a credit card company. But that, I wouldn't have caught that. And it was a monthly subscription for a service that if I hadn't been paying attention to my email, if I hadn't been watching the statements, they would have started charging me a monthly fee for a service I don't use. I have no use for. And I've never signed up for it, never even heard of that. But somehow or other, they got a hold of that credit card information before I did.
That just, like I said, just screams inside job. But anyway, it's just
it makes you wonder.
So
it absolutely makes you wonder. So, those are some of the things that we have to bear in mind as we go into the season. Stuff like this is happening. It's very prevalent. just, you know, I don't want to strike fear in anybody's heart, but be careful and be cautious.
Yeah.
Be
Well,
aware.
even I was going to say, you know, when I see something, you know, because I get the stupid ads on Facebook, if something is interesting to me, I go to a new browser window and then I do a search for that company, and usually we'll look at reviews
Yep.
to see if it's worth my time to explore it more.
Yep, exactly. So make sure you're going to a reputable company site.
Yeah.
Look it up independently. I mean, we talked about earlier in the year, we talked about ways to verify things. This is one of those ways. You know, do your own search.
Mhm.
Don't just click on a link because it's convenient, especially if it becomes an email. If it comes an email, my practice is I'll look at the link and I'll strip it down to where it started and then go there and look myself.
Yeah.
Just the way Holly was saying, you know, go find it yourself.
Yeah.
Companies actually hate that because they are using a lot of tracking technology
Mhm.
in those links. You'll notice that they're, you know, obnoxiously long and complicated, and they look like gobbledygook. But what's embedded in there is usually all kinds of tracking codes, so they can measure and monitor what you're doing, what you're clicking on, where you scrolled,
Yep.
where your mouse was on the page, how long you hovered over something, how long you, and I mean, there is a wealth of data
Yeah.
on any website these days about your behavior patterns. That tells them how to market to you.
Yeah. It's all about marketing to what we like.
Yes.
You know, so yeah.
Well, think about it too, is the bad guys also have access to that if they, you know, get a hold of these databases.
Yeah.
And it's not like anybody's, you know, accidentally hung a, you know, a large database out on Amazon S3 or anything like that.
That's another episode. So we want to wind down now.
It's not like that's only happened a few dozen times
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. We'll probably talk about some of that next month. What's happened this year in the world of cybersecurity among everything else that's gone on. So just to kind of recap, think before you click, use a low limit credit card,
Yep.
try to avoid using your debit card, and research. Don't be afraid to research.
Well, and, you know, be careful with your Wi-Fi setup at home.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of questions lately about securing home setups. And especially in these times where, you know, everybody in the house is on Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids are at home because they're studying from home. You know, you and your spouse maybe are sharing the Wi-Fi and you're both trying to work from home. And I realized that connecting extra devices to your Wi-Fi with a, you know, obnoxiously long password is complicated. It's worth it.
Yes, it is.
So.
Yeah. So as a reminder, if you have questions, comments, you can always reach out to us at iso@apu.edu. We love your questions. One of us will get back to you as soon as we can. And final thoughts, Sean?
You know, it's just, you know, we're living in interesting times. So
Indeed.
keep your head down. Don't trust what you hear. Look it up yourself.
Yes. And with that, we will see you next month. Bye-bye, guys.